At the threshold of the 20th century, as the world rushed towards an industrialized future, a man became obsessed with the past. What if myths were not just bedtime stories? What if, under the scorching sun of Crete, a real labyrinth and a legendary palace awaited, buried by time? This deep yearning to connect with the roots of Europe drove the visionary British archaeologist Arthur Evans to embark on the adventure that would define his life and rewrite history. The search for the ruins of Knossos. In a Crete shrouded in the veil of legend, Evans was not seeking mere ruins. He was searching for the echo of a lost civilization, the radiant ghost of Minoan culture. As the world entered a new era, archaeology became the key to unlocking forgotten doors. Discoveries in Egypt and Mesopotamia had shown that entire empires could lie beneath our feet. The question floated in the air of academic and adventurous circles. What other secrets, what other worlds awaited in the shadows of the earth, waiting to be brought back to light? Arthur Evans, born in 1851, was a man whose curiosity knew no bounds. Although his early career focused on paleography, the study of ancient writings, his destiny pulled him toward archaeology. In 1894, his travels took him to Crete, a place that would captivate him forever. The island was already whispering promises to other explorers. But it was Evans who was destined to orchestrate the renaissance of its lost history. The moment was a political and social crossroads. Crete, recently liberated from Ottoman rule in 1898 to become a Greek protectorate, vibrated with a nationalist fervour that looked to its ancient past for identity. In this climate of change and rediscovery, Evans arrived at Knossos. There, on the gentle slopes of a hill, the legends of a powerful king and an impossible monster seemed to whisper among the stones and olive trees. Evans's decision to excavate was not a whim, but the culmination of an obsession. Rumours of a monumental palace, the supposed heart of the Labyrinth of the Minotaur, had haunted him. In the year 1900, with a team of local workers and unwavering determination, he sank the first spade into the earth. That modest gesture would initiate one of the most spectacular and controversial excavations in history. As the dust of millennia dissipated, what emerged defied all expectations. These were not mere walls, but the arteries of a sophisticated metropolis, frescoes of vibrant colours that seemed to move, complex sanitation systems that rivaled modern ones, and majestic halls that spoke of an opulent and organised society. Each finding was a new question, and Evans's imagination, fueled by his passion, began to reconstruct a glorious past. But was he discovering history or creating it? The work at Knossos was a symphony of patience and revelation. For years, Evans and his team not only unearthed buildings, but also the objects that gave pulse to Minoan life: delicate ceramics, ingenious tools, and symbols that told silent stories. The climax came in 1903 with the discovery of tablets inscribed in an unknown language. It was an indecipherable code, the language of a ghostly people. What secrets did those strokes hold? Were they inventory lists, epic poems, or royal decrees? The impact of the excavations was an earthquake in the academic world, the revelation of a European civilization, so ancient and advanced that had flourished millennia before classical Greece, shook the foundations of Western history. Evans had not found a palace, he had resurrected a civilization. His work transformed Crete into a magnet for scholars and travellers, initiating a fascination with the Minoan world that endures to this day. However, his methods and above all his interpretations, often influenced by his personal perspective, ignited debates that would burn for more than a century. The echo of Knossos resonated, but it was filled with unanswered questions. Although Arthur Evans had unearthed a historical treasure, his reconstructions and narratives generated a controversy that still divides experts. Knossos became a symbol of ancient legacy, but also a battleground over authenticity and archaeological ethics. The discovery of Knossos was not the end of a mystery, but the beginning of a much greater one. The question that would define his legacy and ours remains: did Arthur Evans discover a lost civilization, or did he invent it in his own image? In the next chapter, we will delve into the depths of this culture, exploring its origins and development, to understand what made the Minoans such an enigmatic and influential force in the Mediterranean world. If you're enjoying the video, give it a like and subscribe to see more content from the channel. This tireless quest to unravel the secrets of Knossos now takes us into the heart of Minoan Civilization, a fascinating culture that flourished on the island of Crete more than 3,000 years ago. In a privileged geographical setting where the sea merges with the mountains and plains, this civilization emerged as a beacon of innovation and power in the Mediterranean. But what specific conditions gave rise to this enigmatic society? The history of Minoan civilization intertwines with the historical context of the Bronze Age, a period that extends approximately from 3000 before Christ to 1450 before Christ. During this time, Crete was in a strategic position, acting as a bridge between the cultures of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the rest of Europe. The maritime routes surrounding the island allowed for a cultural and commercial exchange that fostered the development of a complex and advanced society. However, the dynamics of power and the growing interest of other civilizations in Minoan resources and trade also sowed the seeds of future conflicts. Amidst this scenario, key figures emerge who would shape the destiny of the civilization. One of the most notable characters is King Minos, who, according to tradition, ruled Crete with an ambitious vision. He is credited with the construction of the famous Labyrinth of Knossos, a symbol of his power and the complexity of Minoan society. Minos, as a priest-king, was not only a political leader but also a religious figure, responsible for maintaining the balance between the divine and the earthly. The decisions he made, from the expansion of the merchant fleet to the creation of alliances with other city-states, were crucial in establishing Minoan hegemony in the Mediterranean. As time progressed, Minoan civilization distinguished itself through its remarkable development in various areas. Monumental architecture, as demonstrated by the Palace of Knossos, became a reflection of its power and sophistication. This complex not only functioned as a royal residence but also as an administrative and religious center, where rituals and economic activities took place. The frescoes that adorn its walls tell stories of daily life, the relationship with nature, and religious practices, revealing a culture deeply interconnected with its environment. The Minoan economy, based on agriculture, fishing, and a dynamic trade, played a fundamental role in its prosperity. The Minoans cultivated wheat, barley, and grapes, and their production of olive oil became a highly sought-after commodity. Thanks to their merchant fleet, they established links with other civilizations, such as Egypt and Hittite culture, facilitating a cultural exchange that enriched their society. Nevertheless, this economic boom also generated rivalries and tensions with emerging powers in the region. As Minoan civilization reached its peak, internal and external tensions also began to emerge. The decisions of Minoan leaders, such as military expansion and intensified trade, were crucial in maintaining their status. But they also awakened the interest of other powers. The arrival of the Mycenaeans, a warrior people from the mainland, represented a latent threat that would change the course of Minoan history. The interaction between these cultures, coupled with the growing competition for control of trade routes, would create a breeding ground for conflict. The immediate consequences of this period of growth and expansion were profound. Minoan civilization, in its quest to maintain control and influence, began to experience internal changes. The social structure, which some studies suggest may have been relatively egalitarian in its early stages, started to show marked differences between the elites and the common population. The elites began to accumulate more power, while the daily lives of citizens were affected by the decisions of their rulers. Was this the inevitable evolution of an expanding society, or were there external forces pushing the Minoan people toward an inevitable outcome? The enigma surrounding Minoan civilization deepens as we contemplate its legacy. How could such an advanced and prosperous culture, which influenced so much of its contemporaries, disappear into the darkness of history? The theories are numerous: natural disasters, external invasions, or even collapse due to its own internal contradictions. Each explanation leaves a shadow of doubt, a mystery that endures through time. As we delve into the next chapter, the focus will shift to the fascinating architectural complex of the Palace of Knossos. This labyrinth of stone and art was not only a symbol of Minoan greatness, but also a mirror of its culture, politics, and religion. What secrets await in its corridors and rooms? What revelations does it offer about life in Minoan civilization? The search for answers will lead us to explore the heart of Minoan architecture and its significance in the context of its time. The evolution of Minoan culture would give rise to one of the most enigmatic architectural manifestations of ancient history, the Palace of Knossos, in the hills of Crete, where the sun shines brightly and the echoes of ancient civilizations resonate in the wind. This monumental complex stands as a symbol of Minoan civilization and its cultural legacy. But what secrets do its labyrinthine corridors and sophisticated architecture conceal? The Palace of Knossos, constructed around 1900 before Christ, rises not only as an administrative and political center, but also as a reflection of the social and religious complexity of its inhabitants. During a period when Crete was consolidating itself as a power in the Mediterranean, the palace became the beating heart of a society that traded with the great civilizations of the time. The structure, of colossal dimensions, extended over approximately 20,000 square meters, and its intricate design has led to interpretations suggesting an intention to disorient anyone attempting to navigate its corridors. Was this architectural labyrinth a consequence of organic growth or a deliberate symbol of the power and complexity of its culture? The figure of Minos, the legendary king of Crete, emerges in this context, representing not only political leadership but also a connection to the divine. According to mythology, Minos was the son of Zeus and Europa, and his reign was considered a reflection of the will of the gods. It is said that he was the one who ordered the construction of a labyrinth to confine the fearsome Minotaur, a monster that symbolizes humanity's unresolved fears and desires. But beyond the legend, Minos and his political decisions played a crucial role in shaping the palace and its function in society. The structure stood as a testament to the king's power, but also as a place where religion and politics intertwined, leaving an indelible mark on Minoan culture. The development of the Palace of Knossos encompassed several phases, each representing architectural and decorative advancements. The earliest constructions, dating from the Neopalatial period, incorporated innovations such as the use of wooden columns with distinctive shapes that tapered downward, and multi-level ceilings, creating an effect of grandeur. The walls, adorned with vibrant frescoes depicting scenes of daily life, nature, and religious rituals, revealed not only a high degree of artistic skill but also a deep connection to their environment. However, the question persists. What did these images truly mean to the Minoans? Were they mere decorations, or did they possess a deeper significance related to their beliefs and worldview? With the arrival of the eruption of the Thera volcano, around 1600 before Christ, the palace suffered events that would mark its history. Although the exact degree of destruction it endured is unknown, it is known that the impact of this natural catastrophe influenced the social and political organization of Knossos. Despite the damage, the palace was rebuilt, reflecting the resilience of Minoan civilization and its ability to adapt to adversity. The decisions of the leaders to reconstruct the palace were not only practical but also symbolic. A rebirth in the face of adversity, an attempt to reaffirm their power and culture in the face of unleashed nature. The immediate consequences of these events were significant. The Palace of Knossos became an even more crucial center for the administration of the island. With an increase in commercial activity and development in relations with other Mediterranean cultures, the complex functioned not only as a political center, but also as a cultural landmark where trade networks were woven and rituals were celebrated in honor of the gods. However, as Minoan civilization flourished, it also began to accumulate shadows of mystery. Did the growth of its power attract envy and conflicts that would lead to its eventual decline? The enigma left by the Palace of Knossos goes beyond its impressive architecture and political significance. The question arises, how could such an advanced civilization, which managed to create a labyrinth of knowledge and power, disappear into the mists of history? As we delve into the next chapter, we will explore the myths and legends surrounding this place, where reality and fiction intertwine, and where the echo of the Minotaur still resonates in the depths of time. What secrets still awaited in the shadows of Knossos, and how did these stories shape the perception of Minoan civilization in the collective imagination? This fascinating exploration of the architecture of Knossos is only a part of the enigma surrounding this ancient civilization. In the heart of Crete, myths and legends flourish, weaving stories that have endured through the centuries and left a profound mark on Greek culture. In this chapter, we will delve into the vast ocean of tales surrounding Knossos, particularly focusing on the myth of the Minotaur and the Labyrinth, inseparable symbols of Cretan and Greek identity. The Minoan civilization, which flourished between 2000 and 1450 before Christ, witnessed a political and social environment where trade and culture intertwined with religion and power. This period was marked by prosperity, during which the Minoans developed a writing system, created exquisite works of art, and established a trade network that spanned the Mediterranean. However, amidst this brilliance, a shadow lurked, and myths began to emerge, shaping a narrative that would resonate throughout history. Among the most emblematic figures of these legends is King Minos, who, according to tradition, ruled Crete with a firm hand. He is often described as a just king, but also as a monarch who defied the gods. His relationship with Poseidon, the god of the sea, is central to the narrative of the Minotaur. It is said that Minos, to prove his right to rule, asked Poseidon to send him a magnificent bull as a sign of his favor. However, when the god fulfilled his wish, Minos decided to keep the bull, sending instead a lesser quality one as an offering. This decision provoked the wrath of Poseidon, who, in revenge, caused Minos's wife, Pasiphae, to fall in love with the bull. This forbidden love gave rise to the figure of the Minotaur, a creature with the body of a man and the head of a bull, symbolizing the duality of human nature. The legend recounts that Minos, ashamed of the monstrosity of his offspring, ordered the construction of a labyrinth in the Palace of Knossos, designed by the engineer Daedalus. This labyrinth not only became a prison for the Minotaur, but also a symbol of the chaos and confusion that often accompany uncontrolled human passions. The figure of Theseus, the Athenian hero who volunteers as tribute to confront the Minotaur, adds another layer to this narrative. With the help of Ariadne, the daughter of Minos, who provides him with a thread to avoid getting lost in the labyrinth, Theseus manages to defeat the monster and escape, an act that symbolizes the victory of reason over barbarism. This myth resonates with the heroic journey that many Greek heroes would undertake, reflecting the internal and external struggles that define the human experience. The decisions made by Minos and his family not only affected their fate, but also shaped the perception of Crete in the Greek narrative. The labyrinth became a symbol of the complexity and mystery of Minoan civilization, leaving posterity with questions such as, was the labyrinth a representation of the Palace of Knossos itself? Or was it a metaphor for the internal struggles of human beings? The interpretation of these myths has evolved over time, with each generation offering its own vision of what they represent. As the legends of Knossos intertwined with Greek culture, their impact extended beyond the borders of Crete. The tales of the Minotaur and the Labyrinth not only enriched Hellenic mythology, but also influenced literature, art, and philosophy. Poets like Ovid and playwrights like Euripides incorporated these elements into their works, establishing a continuous dialogue between myth and reality. This legacy endures to this day, where the figure of the Minotaur remains a powerful symbol in popular culture, representing the deepest fears and desires of humanity. However, the echo of these legends raises unsettling questions. What historical truths lie hidden behind the tales of the Minotaur? What real events may have inspired these fantastic narratives? Archaeology has sought to unravel these mysteries, but the labyrinth of history often reveals itself to be as intricate as the Labyrinth of Knossos itself. The fascination with the myth of the Minotaur and the labyrinth ultimately leads us to consider how history and fiction intertwine in the human narrative. The decisions of Minos, the bravery of Theseus, and the betrayal of the gods serve as reminders that behind every story there is a thread of truth woven into the fabric of culture. This chapter culminates in a riddle that endures. What secrets still awaited in the depths of Knossos? Waiting to be discovered? The answer may lie beyond archaeology, in the realm of cultural interpretation and the legacies we continue to forge. As we turn the page to the next chapter, we will immerse ourselves in the daily life of the Minoans, exploring how their agricultural practices, art and religion shaped a civilization as rich and complex as the myths that surround it. The repercussions of culture and myths manifested in the daily life of the Minoans, who, amidst an environment of prosperity and splendor, wove an intricate tapestry of customs and practices that defined their existence. In this chapter, we delve into the beating heart of Knossos to explore what daily life was truly like for its inhabitants, from their agricultural labor to their artistic and religious expressions. To understand the historical context of daily life in Knossos, we must place ourselves in the flourishing period of Minoan Civilization, approximately between 2000 and 1450 before Christ. This was a time characterized by the rise of a prosperous society, with a political system revolving around kings and priests who not only wielded temporal power but also acted as intermediaries between the gods and the people. The stability that this structure provided allowed agriculture to thrive and the arts to flourish, creating an environment where daily life was imbued with rituals and traditions that honored both nature and the divine. The Minoans, as cultivators and fishermen, depended on the resources that the rich land of Crete offered them. In the fertile valleys and plains, the cultivation of wheat and barley became a pillar of their diet. Excavations have revealed that the Minoans also grew grapes and olives, products that were not only essential for their sustenance, but also played a crucial role in their economy and culture. How did the Minoans manage to maximize the potential of their natural environment? The answer lies in their deep knowledge of agriculture, which was both a daily practice and a sacred art. Ingenious irrigation systems allowed arid lands to flourish. This agricultural advancement was accompanied by the domestication of animals such as sheep, goats, and pigs, which not only provided meat but also wool and dairy products. The Minoans' skill in agriculture reflected their connection to the land, a bond that resonated in their traditions and rituals. Thus, the daily life of the Minoans was marked by a cycle of sowing and harvesting, a reflection of their respect for natural cycles and the divinity that governed them. However, life in Knossos was not limited solely to agriculture. Art, in its multiple forms, occupied a central place in daily life. The walls of the palaces and houses were adorned with vibrant frescoes depicting scenes of daily life, rituals, and the rich fauna of Crete. These works of art were not mere decorations. They were a manifestation of the Minoans' spiritual connection to their environment and their beliefs. What hidden meanings lay behind the colors and shapes that covered their walls? Each image, each stroke, speaks to a people seeking to express their essence through beauty. The Minoans were also skilled artisans, creating ceramics, jewelry, and tools that not only served practical functions but were often imbued with symbolism. Ceramics, in particular, reflected their skill and creativity, with shapes and decorations varying according to the seasons and festivities. The production of these objects was a collective effort where women played a fundamental role, both in crafting and in passing down techniques to future generations. How were these traditions transmitted over time? And what secrets did the hands of those artisans carry to the grave? Religion, another fundamental pillar of Minoan daily life, intertwined with all facets of their existence. The Minoans worshipped a variety of deities, with the figure of the great goddess being one of the most prominent. Religious rituals, which included offerings and ceremonies in sanctuaries, were an integral part of their daily life. Numerous ritual objects, such as cult figures and utensils used for offerings, have been found, suggesting a complex and deeply rooted belief system. Each act of devotion was not only an attempt to appease the deities, but also a way to understand the world around them. What mysteries lie hidden in the rites they performed and in the divinities they worshipped? As the daily life of the Minoans unfolded, their social structure reflected a hierarchy that, although not entirely clear to modern researchers, seems to have been marked by the power of the priest-kings and the elite. Decisions made in the upper echelons of power directly impacted the lives of peasants and artisans. The construction of large palaces and administrative centers, such as the famous Palace of Knossos, reveals the importance of social and economic organization. These spaces were not only centers of political power, but also places where cultural and commercial exchanges took place. What role did the Minoans truly play in Mediterranean trade, and how did that affect their daily life? The consequences of these political and economic decisions were palpable in daily life. The growing concentration of power and resources in the hands of a few may have led to social tensions and internal conflicts. Excavations have found clues of possible inequality that could have affected social cohesion. Was this inequality the seed of a future conflict that threatened the stability of Knossos? The enigma of this chapter lies in the duality of daily life in Knossos. On one hand, Minoan civilization flourished, weaving a rich tapestry of culture, religion, and art. On the other, the structures of power and social inequalities began to show cracks that, over time, could lead to the collapse of this magnificent society. How were these tensions managed in a context where beauty and spirituality coexisted with power and inequality? As we delve into the next chapter, we will discover the crucial role of the priest-kings in the power dynamics of Minoan civilization. These leaders not only governed, but were also custodians of religion and ritual, uniting the political and the sacred in a delicate balance that would define the fate of Knossos. What secrets of power and spirituality will their decisions reveal to us? If you're enjoying the video, give it a like and subscribe to see more content from the channel. This vibrant and complex daily life was not merely the product of a fertile environment and astute trade. Behind every activity, every artifact, loomed a structure of power that, although often kept in the shadows, defined the very essence of Minoan civilization. At the heart of this society, priest-kings emerged as central figures, weaving the threads of politics and religion into an intricate web of influence. During the time when Minoan civilization flourished, Crete was a cultural melting pot where the traditions and beliefs of various communities converged. The figure of the priest-king, who combined political authority with spiritual leadership, rose as a symbol of unparalleled power. These leaders did not only govern in the political sense, they were the guardians of a religious legacy that connected society with the divine. In a world where the sacred and the profane were inextricably linked, their influence extended beyond the palace walls, permeating every aspect of Minoan life. The priest-kings acted as intermediaries between the gods and the people. Their role transcended the mere administration of justice or the collection of tributes. They were responsible for safeguarding cosmic balance. In this context, religion was not just a system of beliefs, but a mechanism of social control that united the community under a common purpose. But who were these priest-kings really? What decisions led them to consolidate their power during such a crucial period in history? In exploring these questions, it is essential to remember that, according to archaeological findings, the figure of the priest-king is prominently featured in Minoan iconography. From seals to frescoes, representations of these leaders reveal an elevated status, adorned with ceremonial garments and symbols of power. However, their existence is surrounded by an aura of mystery. The texts written in Cretan hieroglyphs, although scarce, suggest that their authority was not limited to royalty but intertwined with the religious sphere, establishing an order that was difficult to challenge. During this period, one of the most emblematic priest kings was Minos, a figure that has endured in collective memory not only for his achievements in the construction and development of Knossos but also for his role in shaping Minoan identity. It is said that Minos was the first to institute laws and that in doing so he became a divine judge. This notion of authority as stemming from the sacred cemented his power, allowing him to establish a government that, according to accounts, was equally respected and feared. The decisions of these kings were not without challenges. As Minoan civilization expanded, so did internal and external tensions. Alliances with other city-states in the Mediterranean became vital, and the priest kings had to navigate a labyrinth of diplomatic relations. What strategies would they employ to maintain their position in a sea of uncertainty? How would they balance the desire for power with the need to maintain peace and prosperity in their realm? As history progresses, it becomes evident that the priest kings faced crucial dilemmas that would mark the fate of Crete. In their quest to consolidate power, some opted to increase taxation on neighboring peoples, while others focused on establishing strong trade relations. This duality in decision-making reflects not only the complexity of their role but also the fragility of their position in a world where war and peace were two sides of the same coin. The consequences of these decisions were profound. The economic prosperity that the priest kings sought through trade, on one hand, was threatened by tensions with other civilizations. On the other hand, the tax burden they imposed on their subjects generated discontent, leading to a gradual erosion of their legitimacy. The echo of popular dissatisfaction began to resonate through the palace halls, a whisper that could turn into a cry if not handled with care. Amid this scenario, the enigma surrounding the power of the priest kings deepens. How did they manage to maintain their influence in such a volatile environment? Was their connection to the divine what allowed them to hold on to power? Or were there other factors at play? As we delve into the archaeological records and the legends that have come down to us through the centuries, it becomes evident that the mystery of the power of the priest kings of Knossos remains unresolved. As we enter the next phase of our exploration, it is crucial to understand how trade and connections with other cultures influenced the role of these leaders. In the following chapter, we will unravel the trade routes established by the Minoans and how these relationships formed a vital framework for their existence, revealing even more secrets of a civilization that resists being forgotten. The power of the priest kings was intrinsically linked to a broader network of relationships that connected Minoan civilization with the vast Mediterranean. In a world where borders were fluid and ships constantly navigated the waters, trade became the thread that united the various cultures of the time. Minoan trade routes not only facilitated the exchange of goods, but also forged ties of influence and power between Crete and other emerging civilizations. By the end of the Bronze Age, Crete was at the center of a vast trade network that extended from Egypt to the coasts of Anatolia, passing through the Aegean Islands and the Greek mainland. The strategic location of Knossos, with its port on the northern coast, allowed the Minoans to access crucial maritime routes that connected with other Mediterranean cultures. This historical context of exchange was not only an economic engine but also a catalyst for the cultural and artistic flourishing of the Minoans. Among the key players in this scenario were the priest kings of Knossos, who, with their control over resources and production, decided how and with whom to trade. These leaders, whose decisions were deeply influenced by the needs of their people and the geopolitical environment, established trade relationships with powers such as Egypt, where gold, silver, and other luxury goods were highly valued. In turn, the Minoans exported products from their land such as pottery, textiles, and oils, which were highly appreciated in distant markets. The exchanges were not merely economic, they were also cultural. The Minoans absorbed influences from nearby civilizations such as the Egyptians and the Phoenicians, integrating their techniques and styles into their own art and architecture. However, not everything was harmonious in these interactions. As trade prospered, so did rivalries. The The competition for control of routes and markets led to tensions that often manifested in conflicts. The development of these trade routes can be traced through the archaeological remains found at sites such as the port of Agios Nikolaos and the island of Santorini. Evidence of these connections includes Minoan pottery found in Egypt, which reveals not only the exchange of goods but also the acceptance and recognition of Minoan culture in the Mediterranean world. In turn, Egyptian influence is evident in some of the frescoes of Knossos, where stylistic elements suggest an artistic dialogue between the two civilizations. However, despite this prosperity, the trade connections also left a legacy of vulnerability. The maritime routes, which offered access to wealth, could also be targets of piracy and conflict. The history of Minoan civilization is marked by a series of invasions and attacks that threatened its stability. The arrival of the Mycenaeans, for example, not only altered trade dynamics but also represented a shift in the power structure of the region. The immediate consequences of these tensions were profound. The Minoan economy, which had flourished thanks to its trade network, began to suffer. The products that used to be sent to distant lands now remained on the island, and cultural exchange was limited by growing distrust. The once vibrant trade routes became a reflection of an era of uncertainty. The enigma surrounding this chapter of Minoan history is significant. How could such an advanced and connected civilization fall into the shadows of history? The answers are not simple. The trade interactions, although initially beneficial, also revealed the dark side of dependency and vulnerability. Was trade, which at first was the foundation of its greatness, the very thing that contributed to its decline? As Minoan civilization faced these challenges, the next chapter of its history loomed on the horizon. Writing and language, fundamental tools for administration and culture, would play a crucial role in the evolution of civilization. How would Minoan writing adapt to the changes ahead, and what mysteries did it still conceal? The answer to these questions will lead us to explore the complex web of symbols and meanings that defined Knossos and its legacy. The commercial decline manifested itself through another of the great mysteries surrounding Minoan civilization, its writing and language. In a world where communication was woven through symbols and signs, the Minoans left a legacy that still challenges us to unravel. Writing, a reflection of the culture and thought of a people, offers us a window into the complexity of their society and the depth of their beliefs. In Bronze Age Crete, the development of writing is framed within a context of cultural and economic flourishing. The Minoan civilization, characterized by its elaborate palaces and maritime trade, had established communication networks that transcended the island's borders. However, the mastery of writing techniques was not merely a matter of commerce. It was a reflection of social organization and power. Written records, ranging from commercial accounts to religious rituals, became vital instruments for administration and social cohesion. The earliest signs of writing in Crete date back to a period known as the Proto-Palatial, where Cretan hieroglyphs began to appear. These symbols, which combined pictographic elements with phonetic signs, were used in inscriptions on seals and tablets. However, their meaning remains largely shrouded in the mists of time. What ideas and concepts were conveyed through these hieroglyphs? What stories were told on the walls of the palaces of Knossos? The next step in the evolution of Minoan writing was the development of a more complex system known as Linear A. This system, which was used approximately from 1800 before Christ to 1450 before Christ, reflects a transition towards a more structured and systematic writing. Linear A, unlike the hieroglyphs, is considered to have been a syllabic system that represented sounds rather than concepts. However, despite its greater complexity, the meaning of Linear A remains an enigma. The lack of a clear decipherment has led numerous linguists and archaeologists to dedicate decades to its study, but the key to its understanding remains elusive. What secrets and knowledge lie hidden behind the lines of this ancient writing system? Among the key figures in this story of Minoan writing are the rulers of the time who, through their decisions, propelled the development of these communication systems. Figures such as King Minos, whose legacy intertwines with the mythical tales of the civilization, may have driven the creation of written records to consolidate their power and control the administration of their vast realm. However, the role of these leaders is often more enigmatic than explanatory, as historical sources are scarce and often imprecise. As Minoan civilization expanded and prospered, so did its writing. The evidence found in the tablets of Knossos and other Minoan locations suggests that writing was used in a variety of contexts. From administrative records to religious inscriptions, this diverse use indicates not only an advancement in writing technique but also in the social and economic organization of the time. However, the arrival of the Neopalatial period marked a significant change. Around 1450 before Christ, with the fall of Minoan civilization to Mycenaean forces, Minoan writing began to fade. The use of Linear B emerged, a system that, although more familiar to historians, represented a radical shift in the written culture of the island. The immediate consequences of this transition were profound. Minoan writing, which had been a vehicle of power and communication, disappeared along with the civilization that had created it. The arrival of new rulers and the adoption of Linear B, which was a more simplified system adapted to the needs of Mycenaean culture, marked a change in the narrative of Crete. The memory of the Minoans, their language and their symbols faded into the echo of history, leaving only remnants in the ruins of their palaces. The enigma left by this evolution of writing in Crete is deep. Why was the knowledge of Linear A lost? What implications did this loss have on the understanding of Minoan history? Writing, as a reflection of cultural identity, becomes a mystery to be solved. The tablets that still exist are silent witnesses to a glorious past, but they are also reminders of what has been lost in time. As we explore the impact of writing and language on Minoan civilization, we can glimpse a world where words were power and symbols were the key to understanding reality. However, the mystery persists, leaving us wondering what other secrets await in the depths of Knossos. This journey through the history of writing in Crete leads us to the next stage of the study of Minoan civilization, its social structure. How was this complex society organized, and what roles did its members play in this fascinating cultural web? The answers await in the shadows of the ancient palaces. The disappearance of Minoan writing reveals the complexities of social life in Knossos, a labyrinth not only of corridors and rooms but also of human relationships, roles and hierarchies. The Minoan civilization, at its peak, was a mosaic of interactions where each individual, from the noble to the peasant, played a role in the grand theatre of existence. In this chapter, we delve into the social structure of the Minoans, exploring how class and gender differences wove a narrative of power and subordination at the heart of Crete. The historical context surrounding Knossos during its golden age was a vibrant ecosystem, where trade and politics intertwined. The growing influence of the palaces, particularly that of Knossos, marked a significant shift in social structures. In an era where agriculture thrived and commerce flourished, the Minoan elites emerged as the main actors in shaping society. Access to resources, both material and spiritual, became a symbol of status. Thus, the decisions of the priest-kings, who acted as intermediaries between the gods and the people, established an order that favored a minority over the majority. Among these leaders, figures such as Minos, the legendary king of Crete, stand out not only for his political power but also for his religious role. His image, often associated with justice and wisdom, evoked a sense of authority that legitimized the social structure of his time. However, Minos's power was not absolute. The decisions made by Minoan leaders were also influenced by gender dynamics. As we explore this hierarchy, it is crucial to ask ourselves, what role did women play in a society that, in many ways, seemed to be dominated by men? Minoan women, although often relegated to the background in historical narratives, occupied spaces of considerable importance. Through frescoes and artifacts, it can be glimpsed that women were not only domestic figures, but also celebrated in rituals and festivities. Representations of goddesses and female figures in poses of power suggest that at least some women may have exercised influence in religious matters and possibly in the economy. However, the reality of their social position was complex. Were these representations a form of empowerment or simply a projection of the masculine ideals of the time? As the social structure developed, class differences became increasingly pronounced. The elites, who owned vast tracts of land and controlled resources, benefited greatly from maritime trade. Artisans and merchants, for their part, formed a middle class that, while influential, did not enjoy the same status as the aristocracy. At the bottom of this hierarchy were the peasants and labourers, whose lives were marked by hard work and dependence on the decisions of the powerful. How did these individuals manage to survive in a system that seemed designed to keep them in the shadows? The unfolding of events in this social organization culminated in a series of interdependent relationships that defined the structure of Knossos. The palaces, far from being merely residences of the elite, acted as administrative centers where resources were managed, work was organized, and ceremonies were conducted. The Minoan economy, in its essence, depended on this hierarchical structure, which in turn was sustained by notions of power and control. However, this organization was not without tensions and conflicts, which often emerged from power struggles between different classes and genders. The immediate consequences of this social organization were profound. As the elites consolidated their power, inequality became a distinctive feature of life in Knossos. The distance between the opulent palace and the humble dwellings of the peasants was a constant echo of the hierarchy that defined society. But what happened to those who challenged this established order? Over time, the accumulation of discontent may have sown the seeds for future conflicts, marking the path toward inevitable change. The enigma of Minoan social structure, however, does not stop at its class and gender differences. The lack of written documentation shedding light on internal dynamics leaves many questions unanswered. How did different classes communicate with each other? What forms did revolts and resistances take? The absence of clear records regarding actions and decisions makes understanding this civilization even more intriguing. The remnants of this society, the ruins of Knossos, speak to us of a world where power, religion, and gender intertwined in a complex dance. As we delve into the next chapter, we will explore the artistic expressions of this culture, a reflection of its worldview and a testament to the values that guided its daily life. What secrets await in the frescoes and ceramics that have withstood the test of time? And how will they reveal hidden truths about Minoan society? Life in Knossos, a vibrant center of Minoan civilization, was defined not only by its political and social structure, but also by its art, which stood as a reflection of the complexity of its beliefs and values. In a constantly evolving world, Minoan art emerged as a visual language, laden with meaning and symbolism that narrated stories of gods, humans, and the intrinsic relationship between the two. In this chapter, we will delve into the fascinating world of frescoes, pottery, and the symbolism that defines the legacy of Knossos. The political and social environment that preceded the flourishing of Minoan art was marked by a profound connection to nature and spirituality. Minoan society, governed by priest-kings, was characterized by a prosperity that was partly due to its mastery of maritime trade. This economic boom allowed for the development of a unique artistic style, which not only adorned palaces and temples, but also served as a means to communicate the culture and values of its people. The influence of religious beliefs, along with reverence for nature, became the core of Minoan art. Among the key figures who propelled this artistic expression was King Minos, a mythological and possibly historical figure whose leadership cemented Minoan power. Although his actual existence is a subject of debate, Tradition presents him as a just and feared ruler whose authority extended beyond the borders of Crete. Under his command, Minoan artists found a conducive environment to explore their creativity, creating works that not only beautified spaces but also offered glimpses into the daily life and myths of their time. What secrets lay hidden behind each brushstroke? The frescoes of Knossos are undoubtedly one of the most intriguing aspects of Minoan art. On the walls of the palaces, artists captured vibrant scenes of nature, marine life, and religious rituals. Images of bulls, dancers, and flowers intertwine in compositions that seem to come alive, capturing the energy of a world that revered fertility and the cycle of life. The techniques employed by the Minoans, such as the fresco secco, where pigments were applied to dry plaster, demonstrated their mastery in the use of color and form. However, the meaning of these images goes beyond mere representation. Each figure and each symbol was imbued with profound symbolism that, although still partially hidden today, suggests a spiritual connection to the divine. Minoan pottery, equally rich in symbolism, became a vehicle for expressing the aesthetics and worldview of the civilization. Decorated with geometric patterns and natural motifs such as fish and birds, pottery not only served a utilitarian function but also reflected the social status of its owners. The more elaborate pieces, often found in tombs and sanctuaries, were silent witnesses to life and death and bearers of a message that transcended time. Moreover, the technical skill of Minoan potters, which included the use of hand painting and glazing techniques, left a lasting mark on the history of art, and its influence can be traced through the centuries. As we explore the development of Minoan art, it becomes evident that the connection to nature was a common thread in all their works. The representation of animals, plants, and landscapes was not merely an aesthetic concern. These elements were considered sacred and were imbued with deep symbolism. The figure of the bull, for example, was not just a decorative element but embodied strength, fertility, and connection to the divinities. But was the bull truly a symbol of power, or rather a reminder of the cycles of life and death? The immediate impact of Minoan art on its society was undeniable. The works not only beautified public and private spaces but also fostered a sense of collective identity among the Minoans. In a world where religion and politics were intrinsically linked, art became a means to reinforce the ideology of power and devotion. The images in the frescoes and pottery were, in fact, tangible manifestations of the faith, pride, and culture of a civilization that, although trapped in the shadows of time, continues to resonate in the present. However, despite the richness and beauty of Minoan art, an enigma persists that invites reflection. What did these works truly mean to their creators? Were they merely adornments or bearers of a deeper message? In each fresco and in each piece of pottery lies a mystery waiting to be solved, a story that longs to be told. As we delve into the next chapter, we will explore how nature and the environment influence the daily life of the Minoans. The interrelationship between art, culture, and the environment will offer us a broader perspective on the civilization that inhabited Knossos and the secrets that still await discovery. Minoan art and symbolism were deeply rooted in their environment, giving rise to the development of a civilization whose existence intertwined in a fascinating way with the dynamics of its surroundings. In this chapter, we delve into the intimate and complex relationship that the Minoans forged with their natural environment, a bond that not only sustained their culture but also shaped their economy and their legacy in history. The Minoan civilization flourished on Crete, an island that, with its mountainous landscape, fertile valleys and coasts washed by the Mediterranean Sea, offered a variety of natural resources that were fundamental to its development. In the historical context of this period, Crete was a crossroads between Mediterranean civilizations, fostering a cultural and commercial exchange that would influence its rise. The abundance of resources, such as olive oil, wine, and agricultural products, was vital for the emergence of a prosperous economy. The Minoans, expert navigators, utilized these riches to establish trade routes with Egypt, Mesopotamia, and other Mediterranean cultures, thus promoting an exchange that enriched their society. In this environment, the figure of the priest-king stands out, who not only governed but also acted as intermediaries between nature and the people. Their authority was based on the control of resources and the organization of agricultural production, which conferred upon them significant power. The rituals and ceremonies they carried out reflected their deep connection with nature. Venerating gods and deities related to the land and the sea, this spiritual vision of the natural environment influenced not only religion but also daily life, where agriculture and fishing were essential for survival. The Minoans developed advanced agricultural techniques that allowed them to make the most of Crete's fertile land. The construction of terraces on the mountainsides and the implementation of irrigation systems are examples of their ingenuity. However, despite their ability to adapt and thrive, the relationship with nature was not without challenges. The island, prone to earthquakes and other natural disasters, raised questions about the vulnerability of a civilization that depended so much on its environment. As we explore the development of events, it is crucial to recognize how the ecology of Crete influenced the decisions of the Minoans. Fishing, for example, was not only a source of food but also an essential component of their trade. The frescoes found in the palaces of Knossos and other locations showcase a rich marine iconography, highlighting the importance of the sea in their lives. Nevertheless, was this dependence on the sea what made them vulnerable to fluctuations in marine ecosystems? Overfishing or changes in ocean currents could have had devastating consequences. The strategic decisions of Minoan leaders, in conjunction with their environment, shaped not only their economy but also their culture. Agricultural festivities and rituals, which celebrated the harvest and abundance, reflected a worldview that revered the cycle of life and death in nature. However, prosperity can also breed complacency. The elites, focused on controlling resources, may have overlooked the warning signs that nature presented to them. Did their closeness to their environment blind them to the dangers that lurked? The immediate consequences of this complex relationship became evident over time. Economic prosperity attracted the attention of other civilizations, creating a constant flow of trade but also rivalries. The competition for resources and trade routes not only altered the internal dynamics of Crete but also made it a target for external invasions. The wealth of the island, instead of being merely a blessing, became an attraction for those seeking to take advantage of its success. The enigma that arises from this narrative is profound. How could such an advanced civilization, so connected to its environment, face eventualities that led to its decline? The Minoans' relationship with nature and their surroundings was undoubtedly one of the keys to their success, but it was also an aspect that could have contributed to their downfall. Was their dependence on natural resources a factor that led them to underestimate the external forces threatening their existence? Thus, as we conclude this exploration of nature and the environment in Minoan civilization, we are left with the unsettling question of how this bond influenced their history. The traces of their relationship with the natural environment resonate through time, revealing a legacy that, although brilliant, is also marked by fragility. In the next chapter, we will address the growing threat looming over Knossos, a conflict that would test not only their connection to the environment, but also their capacity for resilience in the face of imminent adversities. How would the Minoans confront the challenges ahead? The answer could change our understanding of their history. Minoan prosperity, so dependent on its environment, would soon transform into a palpable threat. As civilization flourished on the island of Crete, an echo of unease began to resonate on the horizon. The peace that had allowed the Minoans to develop their culture, their art, and their trade now faced the shadow of external forces threatening to interrupt their splendor. The growing geopolitical tension in the Mediterranean became inevitable, and the history of Knossos would be marked by the fragility of its stability. During the 15th century before Christ, the political context of the region was chaotic and filled with rivalries, emerging powers, such as the Mycenaeans on the mainland of Greece, began to expand their influence, seeking resources and trade opportunities that Crete offered in abundance. This voracious quest for power not only threatened the security of Knossos, but also challenged the hegemony that the Minoans had enjoyed for generations. In turn, the peoples of the East, such as the Hittites and the Egyptians, also observed with interest the events in Crete, eager to exploit any weakness they could detect in this prosperous civilization. In this context of instability, the Minoan king, whose name is not clearly preserved in the records, faced critical decisions. The ancient alliances that had guaranteed peace and prosperity began to crumble. Reports of incursions by pirates and mercenaries started to reach the palaces, and the need for a military response became increasingly urgent. The Minoan leaders, accustomed to diplomacy and trade, were forced to reassess their strategies and consider the possibility of war. One of the key figures in this narrative is the ruler of Knossos, who, faced with this growing threat, chose to strengthen the city walls and increase defensive capacity. However, building a robust military infrastructure was not the only response. Negotiations with other city-states and nations of the Mediterranean became vital, but time was against them. Could the Minoans maintain their independence in the face of such a formidable enemy as the Mycenaeans, who had already begun to show signs of aggression? Throughout this time of tension, daily life in Knossos did not come to a halt. The palace streets remained filled with artisans, merchants, and priests, all trying to maintain normalcy amid the growing uncertainty. However, fear became palpable. Whispers among the citizens spoke of rumors of an imminent attack, and anxiety gripped the hearts of those who had known only splendor and peace. The uncertainty about the future of Knossos became a recurring theme in daily conversations. Events unfolded rapidly. External pressure and internal conflicts led to an increase in social tensions, and the king's decisions became riskier. In an attempt to secure the loyalty of the nobles and warriors, spectacles and festivals were organized to reinforce Minoan culture and keep morale high. However, these efforts did not conceal the reality. Armed conflict seemed inevitable. The arrival of embassies from neighboring kingdoms with their own demands and proposals increased the complexity of the situation. In this scenario of growing danger, the Minoans faced not only a military threat but also the identity crisis that many endangered civilizations confront. Who were the Minoans without their legacy of peace and trade? Could they adapt to the new reality of a world where war might be the only answer? Questions piled up as the days passed, and time became the most feared enemy. The immediate consequences of these decisions became evident when the first conflicts erupted. Incursions by Mycenaean groups began to occur more frequently, and the defense of Knossos was put to the test. The city, which had been a symbol of culture and wealth, now prepared for war, a radical change that would resonate throughout its history. The streets that once echoed with laughter and trade now resounded with the sound of armor and the clamor of warriors. The atmosphere, once vibrant and full of life, turned somber, marked by the impending battle. The enigma posed by this situation is deep and complex. How could a civilization that had thrived in peace have fallen into a cycle of violence? The decisions of the leaders, the pressure from external forces, and the fragility of alliances intertwined in a web of uncertainty. Knossos, once a beacon of culture and progress, now found itself at the crossroads of its destiny. The history of Minoan civilization, which had been a narrative of success, was turning into a tale of struggle and resistance. The shadows of war loomed over Knossos, and the question lingering in the air was unsettling. Could the city survive this growing threat, or would it become a distant echo of what it once was, trapped in the labyrinth of time? With the horizon growing darker, the forces of nature and man began to converge, leading Minoan civilization toward a fate that no one could predict. The next chapter of its history, one of natural disasters and devastation, was about to begin. What legacy would remain of Knossos after the onslaught of time and war? The answer awaited in the depths of history, ready to be unearthed. the growing external threat would soon transform into an unprecedented catastrophe. In the 17th century before Christ, Minoan civilization had reached its peak, filled with wealth and culture, when a natural phenomenon of epic proportions unleashed itself in the heart of the Aegean Sea. The eruption of the Thera volcano on the island of Santorini left an indelible mark on history, an echo of destruction that would resonate through the centuries and undoubtedly shape the fate of Knossos and all of Crete. The political and social environment surrounding Minoan civilization before this catastrophe was one of remarkable prosperity. Knossos, as the nerve center of power and trade, radiated influence throughout the Mediterranean. The priest-kings, figures who combined religious and political authority, ruled with a firm and astute hand, consolidating trade alliances that extended their networks as far as Egypt and Mesopotamia. However, as the winds of change blew, nature was preparing to unleash its fury. The Minoans, experts in navigation and trade, found themselves at the pinnacle of their cultural development. Their art, characterized by vibrant frescoes and finely decorated ceramics, reflected an innovative and creative society. But could they truly foresee the threat looming over them? The answer, as we would discover, would turn tragic. In the year 1600 before Christ, Thera, a volcano that had remained dormant for centuries, began to show signs of activity through archaeological records and geological studies. It has been determined that the eruption was of such magnitude that it altered the climate across the region. At the heart of that volcanic activity, magma and gases accumulated deep within the earth, setting the stage for an explosion that would change the course of history. The decisions of Minoan leaders during those times of rising tension are an enigma in themselves. Did they ignore the warnings of nature? Or did they feel so secure in their power that they did not consider the possibility of a catastrophe? Records from the time are scarce, but some archaeological evidence suggests that there was an increase in religious activity, as if the Minoans were seeking the protection of their gods in the face of an imminent threat. However, what was coming was inevitable. On the 6th of August of that fateful year, the Thera volcano erupted in a cataclysmic explosion. The force of the eruption was so devastating that it is estimated the volcano expelled more than 100 cubic kilometers of volcanic material into the atmosphere. The subsequent ash cloud darkened the sky, blocking sunlight and causing a temporary global cooling. In the hours that followed, tsunamis of up to 30 meters in height unleashed upon the coasts of Crete, sweeping away everything in their path. As lava and ash covered the island of Thera, panic seized Knossos. The streets, which had once resonated with the bustle of merchants and religious rituals, became an echo of chaos and despair. The population, trapped between the fury of the volcano and the panic of impending destruction, was forced to seek refuge. The structures of the Knossos Palace, a symbol of Minoan power, felt the impact of the catastrophe, and many of its beautiful decorations were destroyed or covered in ash. The immediate consequences were devastating. The Minoan civilization, which had flourished for centuries, faced an unprecedented collapse. Agriculture was disrupted by volcanic dust, while maritime trade came to a halt, leaving coastal cities isolated and vulnerable. The food supply network crumbled, and famines began to loom over the population. In a twist of history, what had been a beacon of culture and progress was becoming a landscape of desolation. As decades passed, the echoes of the eruption continued to resonate in the memories of the survivors. The legends of the Minoans, filled with tales of angry gods and forgotten warnings, served as a reminder that nature is both a giver and a destroyer. However, the mystery persists. Was the eruption of Thera the only factor that led to the fall of Knossos? Or were there other elements at play that contributed to its decline? This enigma becomes a thread running through the history of Minoan civilization. As the dust of the eruption settled and ash covered the streets of Knossos, other forces, both internal and external, began to take shape. The question of what other elements may have influenced the fate of this great civilization leads to a deeper reflection on the fragility of power and the imminent arrival of the Mycenaeans, who would forever change the course of Crete's history. As we delve into the next chapter, we will explore how the arrival of these new actors on the Mediterranean stage not only transformed Knossos, but also altered the very fabric of Minoan civilization. What legacy would remain after the storm, and who would be the heirs of this ancient splendor? History is about to unfold. If you're enjoying the video, give it a like and subscribe to see more content from the channel. The catastrophe of Thera would soon transform into a decline that would resonate throughout the centuries. On the brink of the end of Minoan civilization, Knossos, once brilliant and bustling, found itself on the edge of an abyss. In this chapter, we will unravel the multifaceted causes that led to the demise of this magnificent palace, exploring the natural disasters and internal conflicts that loomed over its legacy like shadows. In the historical context of the 15th century before Christ, Crete was a center of power and culture in the Mediterranean, where Minoan civilization reached its peak. However, following the cataclysm of the eruption of the Thera volcano, the political and social environment became increasingly unstable. The trade networks that once flowed with wealth began to falter, and the echoes of destruction reverberated in every corner of the palace. The Minoans, who had thrived due to their ingenuity and skill in trade, now faced the harsh reality of a hostile environment where recovery seemed a distant dream. In this fragile state, the decisions of Minoan leaders played a crucial role. The most prominent figure, the king, whose name has been lost in the mists of time, had to confront the growing distrust among the elites and the population. The lack of food and resources following the eruption of the volcano created tensions that threatened to fracture social cohesion. Instead of uniting to face adversity, the leaders began to seek scapegoats rather than solutions, fostering internal divisions. But was the lack of resources truly the only cause of this discontent? The alliances that had sustained the power of Knossos began to crumble. Conflicts among the various factions of the Minoan elite who had previously worked in harmony intensified. This phenomenon manifested not only in the halls of the palace, but also in the surrounding communities. The farmers, who had been the backbone of the economy, faced scarcity and insecurity, leading to uprisings that challenged the authority of the king. In this context, the palace that had been a symbol of unity and prosperity was becoming a battleground of ambitions and resentments. As time progressed, natural disasters continued to haunt Minoan civilization. The land, already shaken by the eruption of Thera, offered no respite. Earthquakes and droughts became increasingly frequent events, plunging the inhabitants of Knossos into palpable despair. Agriculture, the heart of the economy, suffered in silence, and with it the possibility of maintaining a united and prosperous population. The decisions of leaders during this time were crucial, but the responses to the crisis became increasingly inadequate. Could the Minoans have avoided their own decline if they had made different choices? The unfolding of events during this period is characterized by a series of failures in power management. The inability of leaders to form a unified response to adversity led to the fragmentation of society. Rival factions began to emerge, each competing for control of scarce resources. Amidst these struggles, external trade relations also deteriorated. Former allies grew wary and distant, leaving Knossos isolated in a sea of uncertainty. The trade caravans that once brought exotic goods and wealth now sailed toward other ports, leaving Minoan civilization on the brink of collapse. The immediate consequences of these events were devastating. The loss of social cohesion and the weakening of the economy led to an increase in popular discontent. The uprisings that erupted in agricultural communities not only undermined the authority of the king, but also created an atmosphere of fear and distrust. The palace of Knossos, which had been a symbol of power and splendor, was now becoming a place of uncertainty and danger. The shadow of decline stretched forth, and with it, the question of what had truly happened began to take shape. Was nature solely to blame for the fall of Knossos? Or had the people themselves contributed to their fate? The enigma of the chapter presents itself as an echo resonating in the walls of the palace. Could Minoan civilization have saved itself from its tragic fate if its leaders had chosen the path of unity and collaboration? As we explore the layers of this story, the complexity of the factors that led to the decline of Knossos becomes evident. The combination of natural disasters and internal conflicts created a perfect storm that swept away one of the most fascinating civilizations of ancient history. The loss of Knossos not only represented an end, but also the beginning of new dynamics in the Mediterranean. The arrival of the Mycenaeans, as we will see in the next chapter, would mark a new chapter in the history of Crete, where the legacy of Minoan civilization would intertwine with the culture of its conquerors. What secrets and mysteries still lie beneath the ruins of Knossos, waiting to be unearthed by future generations? The internal decline would soon be followed by an even more radical change on the island of Crete. With the twilight of Minoan civilization, a new actor emerged on the horizon of the Mediterranean, the Mycenaeans. Hailing from the Greek mainland, these warriors and traders were ready to leave their mark on Cretan culture, bringing with them a combination of ambition, art, and conflict. The arrival of the Mycenaeans in Crete not only represented a demographic shift, but also marked a crucial episode in the intertwining of two civilizations that would shape the history of the region. In this transitional context, Mycenaean influence began to penetrate the rich Minoan culture which had flourished for centuries. This period was characterized by a complex network of city-states and vibrant trade, but also by a growing vulnerability to external forces. The political and economic tensions that had begun to rise like shadows over Minoan civilization were now intensifying, creating a perfect breeding ground for Mycenaean incursion. The Minoans, who had been known for their sophistication and art, faced a new challenge that threatened to undermine their legacy. The arrival of the Mycenaeans was not an isolated event. It was the result of the expansion of a culture that had begun to take shape in continental Greece. Led by figures such as King Agamemnon of Mycenae, these warriors were motivated by the need for resources and the desire for territorial expansion. The decisions made by these leaders were closely tied to the politics of power and the control of trade routes, essential for maintaining the prosperity of their culture. As the Mycenaeans began to settle in Crete, the echoes of their actions reverberated through Minoan cities, where changes became evident. The Mycenaeans, with their warrior lifestyle, soon began to influence Minoan architecture, religion, and art. The fusion of both cultures was a complex process, characterized by adaptation and innovation. Minoan frescoes, which had previously represented a distinct aesthetic, began to incorporate Mycenaean elements, reflecting a blend of styles that spoke of the interaction between the two civilizations. Did the Mycenaeans not only conquer physically, but also become heirs to a cultural legacy that they had admired and transformed? In the realm of religion, Minoan deities were reinterpreted through a Mycenaean lens. This religious syncretism generated a new pantheon that spoke to the complexity of the cultural identity in formation. The decisions of religious and political leaders on both sides played a fundamental role in this process of appropriation and adaptation, creating an amalgamation that would result in a new culture, but also in the dilution of the original Minoan identity. The development of these events led to a series of immediate consequences that transformed the landscape of Crete. The Minoan economy, which had been vibrant and autonomous, began to experience significant changes. The Mycenaeans started to establish their control in trade, dominating maritime routes and reducing Minoan influence in the exchange of goods. This shift not only affected the economy but also altered the power dynamics on the island. The Minoan elites were forced to adapt or succumb to the new reality imposed by the Mycenaeans. But what happened to the essence of Minoan culture in this process? The arrival of the Mycenaeans not only marked the end of an era, but also left a profound enigma. Was it truly a conquest or a fusion of cultures? Interpretations of this period vary, and the question lingers in the minds of historians. Were the Mycenaeans mere invaders, or did they contribute to the continuity and evolution of Cretan culture? As interactions between the Minoans and the Mycenaeans intensified, an even more radical change was on the horizon. Writing, which had been a fundamental pillar of Minoan civilization, would begin to disappear, leaving a void that new forms of communication had yet to fill. This mystery will be unveiled in the next chapter, where we will explore the loss of Minoan writing and the transition to Linear B writing, a testament to the cultural transformation that was occurring on the island. The Mycenaean Conquest would soon manifest in the most surprising way. In a world where letters and symbols were so vital to the cultural identity of a civilization, the disappearance of Minoan writing would represent an unfathomable loss. Writing, in all its forms, had been the thread that united generations of Cretans, a legacy that transcended time and space, but which, in an unexpected twist of fate, would begin to fade into the mist of history. The decline of Minoan civilization was marked by a tumultuous political and social environment. Following the arrival of the Mycenaeans in Crete, a radical change occurred in the culture of the island. The influence of the invaders manifested not only in warfare and territorial control, but also in the way of communicating and recording daily life. Minoan writing, which had flourished for centuries through hieroglyphic symbols and the enigmatic Linear A script, began to be eclipsed by the new writing system that the Mycenaeans brought with them, Linear B, Linear A, which had been the tool of the Minoans to express their culture, their laws, and their economic transactions, was a system not yet fully deciphered. However, the rise of Mycenaean civilization with its own written jargon radically changed the linguistic landscape of the region. Among the most significant figures of this period was the Mycenaean king who, in his quest to consolidate power and influence, implemented an administrative system that required a new form of writing. With this, Linear B would become the new standard, relegating Minoan writing to a forgotten corner of history. As the Mycenaeans settled on the island and adopted some aspects of local culture, they also established a more rigorous system of administration and record-keeping that reflected their military and commercial approach. The Linear B tablets, which contained detailed information about the economy, production and property, emerged as the new vehicle for written communication. In this context, one might wonder, was the adoption of Linear B an act of progress or a way to erase Minoan identity? The events that followed were of monumental significance. The transition from one writing system to another was not a simple change of format. It was the disarticulation of a cultural legacy. Minoan writing, with its enigmatic symbols, began to be replaced by a set of signs that followed a completely different logic. This marked the beginning of an era in which the memory of the Minoans, a civilization so rich and complex, would begin to fade into the fog of time. The Linear B tablets became the echo of a new order, a reminder that knowledge once lost is rarely recovered. The immediate consequences of this transformation were profound. As Linear B consolidated, Minoan writing became increasingly a shadow of what it had been. The historical documentation of the social, economic, and religious life of the Minoans vanished. New generations grew up without knowledge of their own history, their myths and their traditions, leaving a cultural void that would be difficult to fill. However, can a civilization truly disappear completely? Or does its legacy persist, hidden in the folds of time? The enigma surrounding the disappearance of Minoan writing and the transition to Linear B leaves us with an intriguing question. What secrets awaited in the depths of Crete's history? Writing, an artifact of communication and connection, had become a symbol of the transition to a new order, but at what cost? This mystery remains unresolved, inviting reflection on the fragility of knowledge and the power of collective memory. As we delve into the next stage of our exploration, the rediscovery of Knossos in the modern era will reveal how the fascination with this lost civilization was rekindled and how contemporary archaeology seeks to unravel the secrets that still remain to be discovered. The disappearance of writing was followed by centuries of silence, but it would soon give way to an unexpected renaissance. As the dust of history settled over the ruins of Knossos, the echoes of its greatness began to resonate in the collective imagination of the modern era. The Minoan Civilization, forgotten for centuries, emerged from the shadows, reclaiming its place in the narrative of humanity. At the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th, Europe was immersed in a fervour of archaeological discoveries. As the continent grappled with modernity and tradition, a new interest in ancient civilizations began to flourish. In this context, Knossos, with its rich cultural heritage and enigmatic history, became a beacon of curiosity. The figure of Arthur Evans, the British archaeologist who had unearthed the palace ruins, stood as the bridge between the past and the present. However, his work, while pioneering, was not without controversy and debate. The rediscovery of Knossos was, to a large extent, a reflection of the social and political changes sweeping across Europe. The rise of archaeology as a scientific discipline coincided with a period of growing nationalism, where European powers sought historical roots that could justify their imperial aspirations. In this climate, the Minoan civilization emerged not only as an object of study, but also as a symbol of cultural identity. The Minoans, with their vibrant art and sophisticated social organization, offered a model of civilization that challenged conventional narratives centered on Greece and Rome. The social context also played a crucial role in this re-evaluation. The Industrial Revolution had transformed daily life, and the quest for a return to the authentic and the spiritual became increasingly present. In this sense, Minoan art and culture, with their intimate connection to nature and focus on aesthetic beauty, resonated deeply in a society yearning to reconcile with its roots. But was it really this search for authenticity that drove the interest in Knossos? Or was there something deeper in the desire to reconstruct a historical narrative? As excavations progressed, discoveries at Knossos began to challenge entrenched perceptions about the history of European civilization. The frescoes that adorned the palace walls revealed a world full of symbolism and life. Depictions of dances, rituals, and scenes from nature intertwined, offering a glimpse into the complex Minoan cosmology. This artistic splendor not only attracted archaeologists, but also artists and intellectuals who saw in the Minoan civilization an alternative source of inspiration in the face of the rigidity of classical culture. However, the rediscovery of Knossos was not limited to aesthetic admiration. Modern archaeology began to question Evans's interpretations, who had restored parts of the palace based on his own personal vision of what life might have been like in ancient Crete. Did these restorations, rather than illuminating the past, distort it? The figure of Evans, therefore, became a starting point not only for the exploration of Knossos, but also for questioning the veracity of the historical accounts constructed around it. Debates over the authenticity and interpretation of Minoan findings intensified as more archaeologists joined the investigation of Knossos. Figures such as the Greek archaeologists Spiridon Marinatos and the British Colin Renfrew began to re-examine the remnants of the Minoan civilization from new perspectives. New theories about trade, cultural interactions, and the impact of natural disasters began to fill the gaps left by Evans's vision. This process of re-evaluation was not only academic, it also became a call to reconsider the place of Knossos in the broader history of Europe. The immediate impact of the resurgence of interest in Knossos was palpable. In the following decades, the site became a popular tourist destination, attracting thousands of visitors seeking to connect with the past. Academic institutions began to establish study programs dedicated to the Minoan civilization, thereby increasing its prestige and relevance in the history of archaeology. This phenomenon not only fueled tourism but also promoted greater cultural awareness surrounding Crete, reviving its importance in the Mediterranean context. However, despite these advances, the enigma of Knossos persists. What secrets still lie hidden beneath its ruins? What aspects of Minoan life remain misunderstood? The questions continue to challenge archaeologists and scholars who delve into the labyrinth of the past in search of answers. As research deepens, the Minoan civilization reveals itself as a puzzle in which each piece holds a mystery yet to be unraveled. With the growing popularity of Knossos, the controversy surrounding Evans's restorations also begins to gain momentum. In the next chapter, we will explore in detail the figure of Arthur Evans, his controversial decisions, and how these have shaped our understanding of Knossos to this day. Was he a pioneer who illuminated history or a restorer who obscured the truth? The answer could forever change the perception we have of this civilization lost in time. The rediscovery of Knossos would soon reveal itself as a dilemma of interpretation and restoration, an echo of the past that resonates in the present. The figure of Arthur Evans, the pioneering British archaeologist who resurrected the ruins of Knossos, stands as a beacon, but also as a point of controversy. His work, although monumental, is subject to intense scrutiny. To what extent did his visions and decisions shape what we today know as Minoan civilization? This chapter delves into the controversy surrounding Evans, an enigma that invites questioning of the interpretations of the Minoan legacy. At the beginning of the 20th century, when Evans began his excavations, the political and social climate of Europe was marked by the rise of nationalism and the search for cultural identities. In this context, archaeological findings were more than discoveries, they were tools to reclaim a glorious past. Crete, with its Minoan heritage, became an ideological battleground. Evans, a man of his time, was influenced by these currents. The Minoan civilization, emerging from the shadows of history, became a symbol of national pride for Britain and other European nations. However, this quest for an idealized past also sowed the seeds of controversy. Evans was not only an archaeologist but a visionary. His passion for history led him to make bold decisions, some of which would be questioned for generations. In his quest to understand Minoan culture, he decided to restore what he found at Knossos, an action that elicited both admiration and disapproval. Using contemporary techniques and his personal interpretation of the evidence, Evans reconstructed parts of the palace, raising columns and decorating frescoes that, in his mind, represented the essence of what life had been like in Knossos. But to what extent were these restorations faithful to historical reality? Or were they merely projections of his own fantasies? The events at Knossos, under Evans's direction, unfolded as an intertwined narrative of discovery and controversy. From his early excavations in 1900, the palace revealed an architectural complexity that astonished the world. However, the restoration that followed was a complicated process, where Evans's decisions, often made without a clear consensus among his contemporaries, generated a debate that endures to this day. In his quest to bring the ruins to life, Evans opted for an approach that prioritized aesthetics over authenticity. The imposing red columns, the vibrant frescoes, and the rooms decorated with Minoan art were in many ways more a vision of what Evans wished to find than an exact reflection of archaeological reality. The consequences of these decisions were significant. His vision of Knossos became the canonical image of Minoan civilization, influencing public and academic perception for decades. However, it also sparked a chain reaction of criticism. Many later archaeologists questioned the legitimacy of Evans's restorations, suggesting that his interpretation was more aligned with the romantic narratives of his time than with the material evidence. Had he transformed the Minoan legacy into a kind of archaeological theatre, where history adapted to his personal narrative? The enigma surrounding Arthur Evans and his work at Knossos is not limited to questions of authenticity. It also raises inquiries about the future of archaeology. Is it possible that the search for an idealized past hinders a deeper and more nuanced understanding of ancient cultures? Or is interpretation an essential part of history, a way to connect the past with the present? Evans's controversy leads us to reflect on the very nature of archaeology as a discipline. Is it an art, a science, or both intertwined? As we explore the controversy surrounding Arthur Evans, we encounter a central mystery that remains unresolved. The ruins of Knossos, raised in their renewed splendor, hold secrets that challenge simplistic interpretations. What does this tell us about our own search for truth in history? The figure of Evans, both a hero and a villain, invites us to question the validity of our own historical narratives in this journey through the echoes of the past. Evans's controversy reveals itself as a mirror reflecting our own ambitions and prejudices. The story of Knossos, with its rich tapestry of myths and realities, continues to challenge us. As we delve into the next chapter, we will explore how modern technologies are unraveling the secrets of Knossos and its structures, offering new light on what might have been and what it truly was. The search for answers, much like history itself, never ceases. The controversies surrounding Evans' interpretations would soon be followed by a renaissance in the way archaeologists approach the mysteries of Knossos. As Minoan Civilization fell into obscurity, the shadows of its palaces and labyrinths became an enigma that fascinated generations of researchers. However, the arrival of the 21st century brought with it an arsenal of technologies that promised to unravel these ancient secrets in a way that the past had never imagined. The historical context surrounding the use of new technologies in the archaeology of Knossos reflects the evolution of scientific knowledge and the growing interdisciplinarity in research. In recent decades, advancements in techniques such as remote sensing, three-dimensional photogrammetry, and data analysis have revolutionized not only archaeology but also the way we understand history itself. While 20th century archaeologists were limited to manual excavations and interpretations based on assumptions, today, data science and imaging technology have opened new doors to explore what was once considered unattainable. Among the key figures in this technological renaissance is the archaeologist and professor at the University of Crete, Dr. Christos Tsountas, who has been a pioneer in the application of geographic information systems on the island. His work has enabled the creation of detailed maps of the ruins and has facilitated a more comprehensive understanding of the distribution of spaces in the Palace of Knossos. Tsountas, along with other researchers, decided that the past of Knossos should not only be excavated but also visualized in 3 dimensions. This decision marked a milestone. For the first time, researchers could observe the arrangement of Minoan structures from a perspective that previously existed only in imagination. The development of drones equipped with high-resolution cameras has allowed for topographic surveys of extensive areas without jeopardizing the delicate integrity of the ruins. The images obtained have revealed architectural patterns and have helped identify areas that may have been overlooked in traditional excavations. In turn, photogrammetry has provided accurate 3-dimensional models of the structures, allowing researchers, as well as the public, to experience Knossos in an immersive way. How many secrets about the daily life of the Minoans await revelation in those 3-dimensional models? The events that have unfolded around these technologies have been significant. In 2018, an international team of archaeologists and scientists from various disciplines gathered in Knossos to carry out a comprehensive exploration campaign. Using drones and laser scanners, they managed to create a 3-dimensional map of the palace and its surroundings. This effort not only focused on visible architecture but also sought to identify potential areas of archaeological interest beneath the ground, in an attempt to uncover what the Earth still holds within. This interdisciplinary collaboration has resulted in surprising findings, such as the identification of structures that could have been part of a larger complex, suggesting that Knossos was even more enigmatic and extensive than previously considered. The immediate consequences of these innovations have been profound. They have not only changed the way excavations are conducted, but have also transformed our understanding of the Minoan legacy. New technologies have enabled discoveries that were once unimaginable, such as the identification of patterns in the distribution of artifacts and the possible localization of areas of social or ritual activity. However, these revelations have also raised new questions. What else lies hidden beneath the surface of Knossos? What other secrets of Minoan civilization might be waiting to be discovered through these modern tools? The enigma surrounding Knossos is not limited to what has been found, but extends to what remains concealed. The combination of technology and archaeology has reached a point where each discovery opens the door to new questions. And each answer poses a new mystery. Have we truly scratched the surface of what Knossos can teach us? Or is this merely the beginning of a long journey toward a full understanding of this ancient civilization? As archaeologists continue their quest, a haunting question lingers in the air. Will the secrets of Knossos be unveiled in the next decade, or will they remain in the shadows waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves? Technology is advancing by leaps and bounds, and with it the possibility that the enigmas of Knossos may finally be unraveled. As we look to the future, the transition to the next chapter becomes evident. The contemporary interpretation of the findings from Knossos is not solely in the hands of archaeologists. Current theories about its function and significance in history reflect the evolution of historical and cultural thought. How have our perceptions of this mysterious civilization changed in light of new discoveries? What does this tell us about our own history? These are the questions that will lead us to explore the contemporary interpretations of Knossos and its legacy in the next chapter of our journey. The application of new technologies would soon reveal the multiple layers of an enigma that had remained hidden for centuries. As contemporary archaeologists venture into the ancient ruins of Knossos, their findings not only reignite fascination with Minoan civilization, but also challenge the established narratives that have endured over time. In this chapter, we will explore contemporary interpretations of the function and significance of Knossos, a place that, despite its splendor, remains a mystery in many of its dimensions. The historical context surrounding Knossos is as complex as the structures of the palace itself. Crete, at the height of Minoan civilization, was at a cultural and commercial crossroads. It was a hub where maritime routes intertwined, facilitating the exchange of ideas, products, and traditions. From the 20th century, the influence of Knossos was understood as a reflection of the greatness of a civilization that may have laid the foundations of Greek culture. However, the arrival of new technologies and research methods has allowed historians and archaeologists to reconsider this legacy. Among the key figures in this re-evaluation is the renowned American archaeologist James Whitley, who has argued that the approach of Arthur Evans, the discoverer of Knossos, although revolutionary, was based on an interpretation that was more aligned with his personal vision of history. Evans, who restored parts of the palace, left a legacy that, while aesthetically impressive, has been criticized for its possible lack of historical rigor. Evans's decisions, which sought to highlight the greatness and mystery of Minoan civilization, have been the subject of intense debate among contemporary scholars seeking a representation more faithful to reality. Developing this argument, it is suggested that Knossos may have functioned not only as an administrative center, but also as a ritual space of great importance. The presence of vibrant frescoes depicting scenes of daily life and rituals suggests that the palace served multiple functions, from politics to spirituality. Contemporary interpretation has also focused on the role of women in Minoan society, a figure that has often been overshadowed by the predominant masculine narrative in ancient history. Some studies suggest that women in Knossos may have held significant roles in religion and the economy, making them influential figures within their social context. However, this complexity also raises unsettling questions. Was Knossos truly a model of peace and prosperity, as some historians suggest, or was it an epicenter of power that concealed internal struggles and conflicts? The hierarchical structure of Minoan civilization, along with evidence of its trade with other cultures, indicates that while there were peaceful exchanges, there may also have been tensions that led to confrontations. The immediate consequences of the new interpretations are profound. As scholars challenge traditional notions about Knossos, a dialogue opens regarding cultural identity and historical memory. Minoan civilization, far from being a distant echo in the past, begins to be seen as an influential precursor of Western culture. However, this re-evaluation also carries a risk, that of simplifying the complexity of a society that, like all, was filled with contradictions and nuances. The enigma that persists around Knossos is, therefore, deep. How to reconcile the image of a lost paradise with the reality of a society with its own challenges and conflicts. As we delve into contemporary theories, it becomes evident that Knossos is more than just an archaeological site. It is a mirror of our own interpretations of history and how we choose to remember our past. Thus, the mystery of Knossos unfolds before us, inviting us to question and seek answers. The exploration of its significance in history not only reflects the desire to understand an ancient civilization, but also the need to confront our own narratives about progress and regression. Each new theory, each finding offers a window into a world that, although distant, continues to resonate in our present. Looking to the future, a troubling question arises: what secrets still await in the depths of Knossos? The answer to this question will lead us to the next chapter, where we will examine how the legacy of Knossos has endured through the centuries, leaving an indelible mark on Greek culture and beyond. The echo of the ancient walls of Knossos still resonates in the pages of history, a legacy that persists beyond the centuries. That vibrant culture which flourished in Crete left an indelible mark on Greek civilization and, by extension, on the Mediterranean world. As time advanced, the shadow of Knossos not only remained but became a beacon of inspiration for future generations. In the twilight of history, the splendor of Minoan civilization intertwines with the epic tales of heroes and gods, forging a context where the real and the mythical coexist. After the fall of Knossos, the Greek world emerged into a new era, one characterized by rivalry among city-states and the rise of democracy. This complex political environment would shape the perception of Knossos as a symbol of greatness and, at the same time, of a civilization that faded into oblivion. The characters in this narrative are not mere actors, but titans of history who determined the course of their peoples. Figures such as Homer, whose accounts of the Odyssey and the Iliad, although set in a post-Minoan context, evoke the echo of ancient Cretan myths. The decisions of these literary and political leaders, along with the philosophers who would follow them, would shape an ideology that revered the greatness of past civilizations, including that of Knossos. Was this an attempt to connect their own legacy with the splendor of what once was? As Hellenic culture developed, the Palace of Knossos transformed into a symbol of culture and sophistication. The stories about its labyrinths and its priest kings became legends that fueled the Greek imagination. Artistic representations from ceramics to frescoes began to be reinterpreted, symbolizing an ideal of beauty and complexity that would endure through time. The events that followed the fall of Knossos were not mere anecdotes, but moments that defined the course of Mediterranean history. The influence of Minoan civilization was evident in Mycenaean art and in the commercial practices that spread across the Aegean. This not only meant an exchange of goods, but also of ideas and values that translated into a new cultural paradigm. However, despite this flourishing, the question remains: how much of its essence truly remained in Greek culture? Was its legacy merely a shadow or a palpable influence in the daily lives of the Greeks? Throughout the centuries, the legacy of Knossos was reinterpreted and reworked. In classical times, philosophers such as Plato referred to the island of Crete as a model of ideal society, an echo of the utopia that rescued the greatness of Minoan civilization. In his dialogues, Plato mentions the existence of an advanced culture that, in his view, had been surpassed by the evils of corruption and decay. This idealization, although not always accurate, reveals the enduring fascination with Knossos and its surroundings. Was this yearning for the lost a reflection of the insecurity of a Greece in constant transformation? In the Hellenistic era, the influence of Knossos extended even further, with its myths and legends nourishing the narrative of literary and artistic works. The Minotaur and the Labyrinth became metaphors for the internal struggle of the human being, symbolizing the conflict between the rational and the instinctual. Thus, the legacy of Knossos transformed into a constant resource for playwrights and poets seeking a connection with a glorious past. However, the mystery continued to lurk. What hidden truths lie behind these stories that still resonate in the collective imagination? As time passed, the revival of interest in ancient history during the 19th century marked a new chapter in the perception of Knossos. The work of Arthur Evans not only revitalized interest in Minoan civilization but also sparked a debate about the authenticity of the reconstructions. The decisions made during this time had a profound impact on how the legacy of Knossos would be understood in the future. The lingering question is, to what extent has Evans' vision shaped our understanding of Minoan history, and what truths have remained hidden beneath his interpretations? The echo of Knossos continues to resonate in contemporary culture. Its influence manifests in literature, art, and cinema, where the enigmatic Minoan civilization continues to fuel curiosity and wonder. Modern representations of its legacy often obscure the reality of its history, turning it into a canvas upon which the yearnings and fears of contemporary society are projected. Is this a tribute to its greatness, or a reflection of our inability to unravel the mysteries it left behind? The impact of Knossos on Mediterranean history is undeniable, but its legacy, like an unsolved enigma, invites us to delve deeper into the shadows of its past. Minoan civilization, with its complexities and nuances, remains a testament to what was and what could have been. Each archaeological discovery and each contemporary interpretation brings us closer to the essence of a world that, although vanished, never ceases to fascinate. Thus, the legacy of Knossos resides not only in its architecture and art, but also in its capacity to invite reflection. As we delve into the debate about the conservation and restoration of its ruins today, we face questions that transcend time. How can we preserve such a rich and multifaceted legacy in a world that often forgets its roots? And what secrets still await in the depths of Knossos, waiting to be revealed to the light of day? As we explore these issues, we prepare for the next chapter, where the debate over the restoration of Knossos will confront us with the complexity of preserving its history in a modern world that struggles to find its identity. The legacy of Knossos would soon manifest itself in the form of a debate that has resonated throughout the decades: the restoration of its ruins. In the context of the 20th and 21st centuries, voices have risen in a discordant chorus, intertwining admiration for the magnificence of Minoan civilization with concern for the historical integrity of its remains. The question that emerges like a distant echo is, how can the past be preserved without sacrificing its essence? The history of the conservation of Knossos is deeply rooted in the legacy of Arthur Evans, the British archaeologist who, in the early 20th century, unearthed this enigmatic palace. However, his ambitious restorations, which sought to bring back to life what lay in ruins, have been the subject of controversy. Evans, driven by his passion for Minoan civilization, made decisions that, although revolutionary for his time, are today a matter of intense debate. While his efforts resulted in the creation of an archaeological site that attracts thousands of visitors each year, they also raised questions about the authenticity of the restored structures. Is it possible that what we admire today is an interpretation rather than a faithful representation of the past? The political and social context surrounding Evans was marked by a resurgence of interest in ancient civilizations and a growing awareness of the need to preserve cultural heritage. Europe was recovering from the devastations of the First World War, and the search for cultural identities was becoming a paramount phenomenon. In this framework, the restoration of Knossos was seen as an opportunity to reclaim the greatness of Minoan civilization, whose history had remained hidden for centuries. However, this fervor also created a fertile ground for controversy, where history was not only unearthed but also reconstructed. Among the figures in this debate is Evans himself, whose personal vision of antiquity led him to interpret and at times modify the ruins according to his ideal of what Knossos should have been. His approach, although innovative, was criticized by some contemporary colleagues who advocated for a more conservative method that would preserve the ruins in their original state. Evans's decisions, such as the use of modern materials for restoration, were seen as a sacrifice of authenticity in favor of spectacularity. But was it really so? Was his vision not in a way an attempt to connect the present with a glorious past? As time progressed, the controversy over the restoration of Knossos would continue to grow. In the decade of 1930, the Greek archaeologist Spyridon Marinatos openly criticized Evans's interventions, arguing that these alterations distorted the historical value of the site. Marinatos, a proponent of scientific archaeology, advocated for a more rigorous approach that respected the integrity of the ruins. With his emphasis on archaeological context and authenticity, he sought a balance between conservation and interpretation. This clash of approaches posed a fundamental question: to what extent should we intervene in the nature of an archaeological site? The decisions made in the past not only affected the perception of Knossos in the present, but also laid the groundwork for future restorations and conservation. As the 21st century approached, the archaeological community found itself divided. While some advocated for a restoration more faithful to Evans's principles, others championed a more conservative approach that prioritized the preservation of the original ruins, even if that meant limiting public accessibility. In this context, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, which had declared Knossos a World Heritage Site in 1986, became a key player in the discussion about the conservation of the site. The organization urged a balanced approach that considered both the preservation of heritage and the need to keep the site accessible to visitors. The question that arose was complex. How can we honor the past without sacrificing the integrity of the ruins? The immediate consequences of this debate were palpable. In the decade of 1990, new restoration efforts were undertaken at Knossos, driven by the need to repair the wear caused by time and tourism. However, these interventions sparked criticism from archaeologists and conservationists who argued that such actions could compromise the historical value of the site. The echo of critical voices resonated with every decision made, and the dilemma became increasingly intricate. How can one decide what should be restored and what should remain in its original state? The controversy over the restoration of Knossos not only reflects a struggle between different archaeological approaches, but also poses a deeper enigma. What does it really mean to conserve the past? Is restoration a way to preserve historical memory, or on the contrary, a reinvention that erases the traces of time? These questions persist, leaving an aura of mystery surrounding the true essence of Knossos. As we delve into this labyrinth of decisions and ethical dilemmas, we encounter a fascinating enigma: the tension between intervention and preservation, between the past and the present. Every decision made leaves a mark. Every restoration brings with it the shadow of uncertainty, and so the echo of Knossos resonates through time, inviting us to reflect on our relationship with history and to question the very nature of conservation. Against the backdrop of this debate, popular culture would begin to take note of Knossos, transforming its legacy into a source of inspiration and mystery. The next stage of our exploration will take us through the representations of Knossos in literature and contemporary media, where myth and reality intertwine in a new narrative. What secrets await at this intersection of history and fiction? The debate about restoration would soon reverberate beyond the sands of time, leaving an echo that would resonate in the cultures and narratives that humanity would forge long after. Knossos, with its labyrinth of myths and realities, not only became a symbol of Minoan civilization, but also an icon that transcended its own time, becoming a source of inspiration and enigma in popular culture. The study of Knossos and Minoan civilization has been a subject of fascination since its rediscovery in the 20th century. However, the true power of this cultural legacy has manifested in literature, cinema, music, and art, where the echoes of its greatness and mystery have been reinterpreted and recreated by generations. This exploration of Knossos in popular culture reveals not only the enduring nature of its myths, but also the way these narratives have shaped contemporary perceptions of history. As humanity advanced in its understanding of the past, the figure of Arthur Evans, the archaeologist who unearthed Knossos, became an almost mythical character. Evans did not merely excavate a palace, he created a world that, although based on archaeological evidence, was infused with his own imagination and desires. His interpretation of the labyrinth, often seen as a symbol of the complexity of life and human destiny, became recurring concepts in literature and art. But was it really so, or was Evans's vision an illusion that distorted the original narrative? Literature has been a powerful vehicle for the reimagining of Knossos. Authors such as Robert Graves in his work The Greek Myths, and Mary Renault, with her novel The King of the Island, have woven stories that intertwine history with fiction. Graves, in particular, used the myth of the Minotaur and the Labyrinth to explore themes of duality and sacrifice, allowing the ancient tale of Crete to speak to contemporary human struggles. In his narrative, the labyrinth becomes a metaphor for confusion and the search for identity in a chaotic world. What secrets still awaited in the depths of those intertwined stories? Cinema has also been a prolific medium for the representation of Knossos. Films such as The Minotaur and The Trojan War have taken elements of the Minoan myth and adapted them to modern narratives. These works not only reinvent history but have also contributed to the perpetuation of the myths of Crete in the collective consciousness. Through these visual representations, the Labyrinth of Knossos becomes a stage of heroism and tragedy, while the Minotaur transforms into a symbol of humanity's internal demons. But what part of the original story has been sacrificed on the altar of dramatization? Music, too, has found in Knossos a source of inspiration. Contemporary composers have explored the symbolism of Minoan civilization in their works, creating pieces that evoke the grandeur and mystery of its culture. The work Minos, by the Greek composer Ioannis Xenakis, is an example of how music can bring back the echoes of a lost past, while new artistic currents such as digital art have begun to recreate the atmosphere of the palace through modern technology. These artistic manifestations lead us to ask, how can contemporary art reinterpret and revitalize a legacy that has been buried for centuries? However, the representation of Knossos in popular culture has not been without criticism. The tendency to simplify Minoan myths or present them sensationally has led to debates about the authenticity and integrity of the original narrative. The figure of the Minotaur, for example, has been used in various forms of entertainment, from video games to television series, often stripping it of its cultural and symbolic context. This phenomenon raises an essential question. Does popular culture honor or distort the legacy of Knossos? The consequences of this fascination with Knossos in contemporary culture are profound. The image of Crete and its civilization has been instrumental in the formation of cultural identities, both in Greece and around the world. It has become a symbol of the richness of Mediterranean history, and its representation in various media has contributed to the construction of myths surrounding what it means to be part of this cultural heritage. However, this celebration also brings with it the need to reflect on how narratives are constructed and consumed. Are we perhaps more interested in the myth than in the historical truth? In this context, the enigma surrounding Knossos unfolds in multiple layers. While Minoan civilization and its palace remain subjects of archaeological study, their representation in popular culture raises questions about the interpretation of history and its legacy. Is it possible that, in our search for meaning, we have lost sight of the essence of what Knossos truly was? Thus, this chapter invites us to reflect on the duality of the legacy of Knossos, a place of wonders and mysteries, but also of interpretations and misunderstandings. As we delve into the next chapter, where we will explore the challenges and opportunities facing the preservation of Knossos in the 21st century, a troubling question lingers. Will we be able to maintain the authentic essence of its history in the face of the whirlwind of modernity? That shadow of uncertainty that has enveloped Knossos since its rediscovery in the early 20th century has only intensified in the present. In the 21st century, the challenges for the preservation of this iconic archaeological site are as complex as the labyrinth that once housed the legendary Minotaur. The struggle to keep the legacy of Minoan civilization afloat unfolds in an environment where modernity and mass tourism threaten to erode the remnants of a glorious past. The historical context surrounding Knossos today is an amalgamation of tourism development, archaeological interventions, and a growing concern about climate change. Since its discovery by Arthur Evans, the site has been the subject of multiple restorations and debates about the authenticity of its structures. This backdrop has forced the archaeological community and society at large to confront crucial decisions about how to balance preservation with accessibility. To what extent can we allow visitors to approach the remnants of a civilization that, although distant in time, continues to resonate in contemporary culture? Among the key figures in this narrative are archaeologists, curators, and cultural policymakers in Greece. The direction of the Greek Ministry of Culture, along with various non-governmental organizations, faces the challenging task of establishing policies that not only protect the site but also promote its study and appreciation. The decision to limit access to certain areas of the ruins, for example, has generated controversy. Some argue that this is necessary to preserve the integrity of the site, while others believe that each restriction is a loss of connection to the past. As the 21st century progresses, the events that mark the preservation of Knossos unfold in a global context. The COVID-19 pandemic, which shook the world in 2020, provided an unexpected pause in the flow of tourists that typically invaded the site. During this time, archaeologists were able to carry out conservation work that had been postponed. However, this respite was brief, and with the resumption of tourism, it became evident that Knossos could not sustain itself amid the pressure of crowds and the commercialization of the cultural experience. The immediate consequences of these decisions are palpable. The frescoes, which once shone with vibrant colors, now fade under the threat of humidity and pollution. The original structures, subjected to the harshness of time and human intervention, show signs of wear that cannot be ignored. The dilemma arises: is it possible to preserve the past without sacrificing the experience of the present? The enigma surrounding the future of Knossos intensifies when considering the fundamental question: will we truly rise to the task of preserving one of humanity's most significant legacies? Or, like the Minotaur trapped in its labyrinth, will we lose ourselves in the complexity of our own decisions? As we delve into this chapter of challenges and opportunities, it is imperative to reflect on the role we all play in protecting our cultural heritage. The preservation of Knossos, beyond being a local effort, becomes a global call to action. The history of this civilization not only speaks to its splendor but also offers lessons we can learn about sustainability and responsibility toward heritage. As the narrative of Knossos unfolds, opportunities for the future emerge. The integration of new technologies in archaeology, such as the use of drones and three-dimensional scanners, offers unprecedented potential for documenting and preserving the site. These tools not only allow for a deeper analysis of the structure and composition of the ruins, but also provide new ways of interpretation for future generations. However, the implementation of these technologies must be accompanied by an ethical commitment that prioritizes conservation over commercialization. The challenge is clear: to find a balance between education, research, and conservation. Collaboration among academic institutions, governments, and local communities becomes essential. The inclusion of diverse voices in decision-making about the future of Knossos can generate a more holistic approach to its preservation. Is it possible that the answer to this challenge lies in the synergy between ancient knowledge and contemporary innovations? The echo of history reminds us that Knossos is not just a remnant of the past, but a symbol of what we can achieve if we make conscious and responsible decisions. The Palace City, with its labyrinths of mystery and rich cultural heritage, invites us to reflect on our role as guardians of history. Every decision we make today will resonate in the ability of future generations to connect with their legacy. The future of Knossos stands at a crossroads. History teaches us that just as the Minoans faced their own challenges, we too must address ours with a clear vision and unwavering commitment. The question that looms over us is, will we be able to walk together toward a future that respects and preserves the essence of what Knossos was? Thus, as we prepare for the next stage of our exploration, we reflect on the legacy we are building and the impact that our current decisions will have on the future. The next chapter will address the final reflections, where we will delve into the mysteries that still surround Knossos and its significance in the history of humanity. What secrets await in the depths of its legacy? The echo of the lost footsteps in the labyrinths of Knossos resonates through the centuries, a whisper of a civilization that once rose with splendor and mystery in the heart of the Aegean Sea. In this final chapter, we delve into the shadows that still envelop this iconic site, reflecting on the enigmas that have challenged generations of archaeologists, historians, and dreamers. Throughout history, Knossos has been a mirror reflecting the aspirations, fears, and tragedies of humanity. But what do we really have left to discover in its ruins? What secrets still lie hidden beneath the stones worn by time? To understand the enduring impact of Knossos, it is essential to return to its historical context. The Minoan Civilization, flourishing between approximately 2000 and 1400 before Christ, was built on the pillars of innovation and connection. At a time when maritime trade began to intertwine cultures across the Mediterranean, the Minoans stood out for their art, architecture, and social organization. However, their history is not merely a tale of greatness. It is marked by the mystery of their decline and the eventual arrival of the Mycenaeans, who forever altered the fate of this magical island. Thus, the Palace of Knossos was not only an administrative and religious center, but also a stage where stories of power, betrayal, and survival were woven. Among the figures who inhabited this enigmatic place, the priest kings stand out, who, with their influence and authority, shaped the daily and spiritual life of the Minoans. Through their leadership, rituals and ceremonies intertwined with political decisions, creating a web of obligations that sustained society. But who were these leaders really? What motivations drove their decisions? The lack of written records and the enigmatic Linear A script leave many questions unanswered, feeding an aura of mystery surrounding their rulers, as we delve into the unfolding events that led to the fall of Knossos. It is crucial to remember the natural disasters that ravaged the island. The eruption of the Thera volcano, a cataclysmic event that had repercussions throughout the region, stands as a reminder of the fragility of civilization. Ashes covered fertile lands and tsunami waves swept away ports and settlements. This disaster not only marked the end of an era, but also opened the door to Mycenaean invasion, a change that transformed the cultural identity of Crete and left a legacy of uncertainty. How could such an advanced civilization fall, swept away by the forces of nature and the ambition of other peoples? The immediate consequences of these events were devastating. Life in Knossos, once vibrant and full of activity, faded away, leaving only remnants of its grandeur. Religious practices transformed, and writing, a tool of power and control, was lost in the silence of time. The arrival of the Mycenaeans marked a new chapter in the history of Crete. But it also left a crucial enigma. What happened to Minoan identity? Did it completely dissolve in the currents of time, or did it find a way to persist in the shadows of the new culture? The enigma of Knossos extends beyond its fall. It deepens into the mysteries that still surround its legacy. As modern archaeologists utilize advanced technologies to explore the remnants of this civilization, new questions emerge. What did the frescoes adorning its walls truly mean? What was the exact function of the labyrinths? Recent findings, such as the identification of complex ritual practices and the importance of trade, reveal a cultural tapestry more intricate than previously imagined. However, each answer seems to give rise to new questions. Will we ever be able to fully unravel the meaning of Knossos, or will it forever remain trapped in the veil of mystery? In this journey through time, we have explored the echoes of a civilization that left indelible marks on the history of humanity. Knossos is not simply an archaeological site, it is a symbol of the perpetual quest for understanding and connection among peoples. Its significance goes beyond its ruins. It is a legacy that invites us to reflect on the roots of our own civilization. In a world where narratives intertwine and cultures intersect, Knossos stands as a reminder that, despite disasters and changes, the human spirit persists, seeking answers in the shadows of the past. As we look to the future, we face the challenge of preserving this legacy. The conservation of Knossos involves not only the protection of its physical structures, but also the safeguarding of the history it holds. As we enter an era of technological advancements and climate changes, the question remains, how can we honor and protect a site that has witnessed so many transformations? The answer may lie in the way we choose to tell its story. Each discovery, each restoration must be done with respect, recognizing that behind every fragment of pottery and every fresco lies a human story that deserves to be remembered. Ultimately, Knossos challenges us to confront our own history, to acknowledge that, like the Minoan Civilization, we too are part of a larger narrative. What mysteries do we still have left to discover in our own lives? What legacies are we leaving for future generations? As we close this chapter, let us remember that the pursuit of knowledge is endless, and that in every dark shadow of history, a light of hope will always shine. Thus, with the whisper of the ancient Minoans resonating in our minds, we conclude this journey. Knossos, with its mysteries and legacies, remains a beacon in the vast ocean of history, a reminder that, although some questions may never be answered, the desire to understand our past is one of the most powerful forces that unites us as humanity. And so, in the ruins of Knossos, history remains alive, inviting us to continue exploring, to keep asking, and above all, to keep remembering.